The weather is shocking. I didn't eat right. I'm tired. I really want to do it, but I just don't feel like it today. I've just got to get out the front door. Hello and welcome to the Fat Man to Ironman Coach Marshy running podcast. I am Neil Marsh, Coach Marshy, and I hope you're all well. Let's just start with a quick disclaimer. I am a qualified running coach, a qualified personal trainer level 3, exercise GP referral specialist, and have a sports science degree. So I would like to think that everything that is said in this podcast comes from a place of good education and a good place of research and backed up methodology. In terms of my opinions that I give, I'm really happy to give those opinions and try to help others. And it all comes from a place of trying to pay it forward. So welcome to today's episode, guys. How are you all? How are you feeling? How's your week been in general and your running week? What I want you to do is I want you to, on any social media platform, please feel free to comment. Simply write podcast, the episode, #6 in this case, and then put a comment and I will happily respond and give you a shout out as well, because it's really important that I talk to you and understand how your running journey is going. So that intro, does that sound familiar to you? Is it something that sounds a bit like you as well? Ask yourself. Does that happen to you a lot? So getting out the front door and getting started is what I'm referring to in that intro. And I think, if I'm being fair, it happens to all of us at some point, either in certain phases of our running journey. Regularly it happens, and really regardless of whatever level you're at as well. I've spoke to elite athletes that suffer from this as much as you and I do, the recreational runner, of getting out there. And it's always something that has happened to me. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more depth in a second. But do you always find there's something else to do? Is there that procrastination when we're out there? We're wanting to go out there, we're wanting to run, but there's just that procrastination and that concept of not being able to get out of the door. I think it happens a lot, and certainly to me, it happens considerably often. And I'm going to focus on 3 main points which I personally suffer with when it comes to getting out that door and getting things started. But also, I would say these 3 factors are quite common when I've coached as well. It's been very apparent to me as a coach that the same factors seem to be the umbrella issue, if you like, of why people find it hard to get out of the door. So the 3 points, I'll run through each one in turn, and let's see what you think. This is very much my experience, but let's see what you think. Can you relate to this? Is this something that you also struggle with as well? And do these particular things play a part, or some of the things that you think might be a factor for you, do they perhaps come under the umbrella of what I'm about to speak about? So I acknowledge that there'll be many factors that will contribute to this for people. So please don't see these 3 as the only 3 factors that would result in you struggling to get out the door. I appreciate there's many more. So I'll run through them really quickly and then we'll go into each one. So rest and recovery from previous training, sleep and nutrition. For me, they're the 3 major things that I would put as an umbrella topic that, broadly speaking, stop me from getting out the door. So rest and recovery from previous training sessions. So what do I mean by that? I think there's many things for recovery that can come into play, including the 2 other factors that I've mentioned, but we're going to leave it from there. We're going to talk about more specifically the recovery process from the previous training session. Did you stretch? Did you foam roll? Did you have a sports massage? And did you give your muscles the right attention in order to be able to recover before that next training session? So for me, when I have those moments of struggle of getting out the door, very much there is something that I can say that I didn't do in relation to recovering from the previous session. So that's a major factor, is have you given your muscles the right attention following your previous training session to then feel all right for the next training session? So that's point number one. Point two is when I struggle personally, and when some of my coaching clients struggle, the sleep. The night before, the sleep has been horrendous or nowhere near enough. And I don't mean in terms of quality of sleep, the broken sleep, the allocation of time to sleep between your training sessions was not designated at a high enough level. What I mean by that is, let's just say, for argument's sake, research taken into account, that we as adults need 8 hours sleep in order to recover properly. Let's go for that. If you're training at high volume, you might need a little bit more. You certainly don't need any less. So let's say 8 hours is a given, and that's what we're giving. And you allow 7 hours and 50 minutes for that 8 hours to take place in. That doesn't allow for any broken sleep. It doesn't allow for any toilet breaks in the night that you might need from your sleep. And what I'm saying is, the time allocation that you give for your sleep period, if it's not sufficient, you're not going to get enough recovery sleep-wise in. So then when you wake up, you're not going to feel like training. So then you're going to struggle to get out the front door or the back door, whichever door you're going to leave. You're going to struggle, right? Because you're not set up right. Your body's not had enough time to recover and get that sleep in. And I think for me, the difference when I've got to get out of that door versus getting out easy and not getting out so easily, sleep is a major factor the night before. Does it affect it? 100%. I would say it does. So you need to focus on the sleep. And then the third thing I want to focus on is nutrition. For me, being a sufferer of IBS, I think it's crucial to get this right. Because if I don't feel great in my stomach, or I feel like I need to go to the loo all the time, any runner will know this. So if you're a new runner, you'll probably know this already. And if you're an experienced runner, you definitely know this. Going to the toilet and running is a massive topic. And nutrition is going to affect people and their bowels, obviously. So if you've messed up, you've eaten poorly the night before, you've eaten poorly for breakfast or lunch, if it's an evening run or an afternoon run, and you haven't got the right type of nutrition for your run, then you're going to feel nervous about it, which is going to contribute to you getting out that door, right? 100%. I can guarantee it. It will absolutely affect you getting out that door and going for your run. So do make sure that your nutrition is on point. Because for me, those moments where I really struggle to get out the door, the chances are my nutrition's not been great leading up to that point. And I'm feeling more nervous about needing the loo than I am focusing on that actual process. And for me, when these three things, recovery from the previous training session, sleep, nutrition, when those three things are right, I've personally found that I don't suffer from finding it hard to get out the front door. I don't suffer from that when my recovery from the previous session, my sleep and my nutrition are more on point. Now, some people would say that's really obvious. Probably to an elite athlete, yes. To a recreational runner, we're probably not thinking about those things as much as we could do. And if we did, and you really think about them as umbrella topics, if those things are correct, what happens? Don't suffer from it. I don't suffer from it personally. And I've had many tell me throughout my coaching career that actually when they get these umbrella topics right, they don't really suffer from getting out the door. And for me, there's an overall underlying thing. It's the psychology behind that. Yes, the weather can be shocking, as mentioned in the intro. The weather can be horrendous. But realistically, if you've got the right clothing on, you should be all right with that. You should be able to deal with that. But the chances are you might be displacing one of these three other factors onto the weather that day, because actually the truth is you're feeling really tired because you didn't sleep properly and it's absolutely chucking it down outside, and I'm going to struggle today. So I'm going to do this, that, and that before I even go out the door. And then you're struggling to get out the front door. So that concept fascinates me. And the psychology, I just find it absolutely fascinating. When you're out there and you finally do get out there, how much things change. Come on, be honest with yourself now. Tell me about it. Send me a message. Do you find that if you've really struggled to get out the door, the way things change once you're out there is absolutely amazing? Now, there is some physiological effects. You're getting a bit of fresh air. That's going to help. But also the psychology behind that is absolutely fascinating, right? You start to feel better. You're enjoying those surroundings. You feel like you could run for a long time. In fact, sometimes I'm even out there and I feel like I could go on all day. It's absolutely brilliant how just like that it can change just in an instance. You could be out there. You were feeling awful. You've taken 2 hours to get out the door. And now you're starting to feel better straight away. You're starting to enjoy them surroundings again. You feel like you could run forever. And then you find yourself, you're planning all this stuff. You're starting to plan your training for future weeks. You're starting to plan what it is you're going to do in your next weeks of training and what races you can do and what you can possibly achieve. And you're absolutely buzzing about it. And then you kick yourself because you didn't get out sooner. Has that happened to you? Fact, it happens to me all the time. Absolute fact. And probably to yourselves as well. First thing on that, though, is it's really important that the first thing you do when you realize all these things is that you don't dwell on that too much. Do not dwell on kicking yourself for not getting out. Instead, change that way of thinking. Change that mindset and that focus a little bit. Concentrate on the fact that you actually got out the door. Think about the 3 points above or whatever it was that you struggled with, and think about that situation and how you can learn from that situation. So in my case, could I have got better sleep or allocated more time for sleep? Could I have eaten better leading up to the run? Did I or could I have recovered better from my previous run or my previous training sessions? Ask them questions and learn from it. Change your brain chemicals to think about what it is you've got out of that, and take that negative feeling and that negative response and take it to a positive response. It's really important that you try and change that way of thinking. And I've done that recently on a few runs, including the run before I recorded this specific podcast. And for me, all I did was start to apply what I've just said. Just change that mindset around it. Start seeing how you can take those negatives and put it into a positive. So what I did in that first mile where it really hurts and you're struggling and it's windy and it's raining and you can't hack it, you shouldn't be out, why am I out, what am I doing? All of those negatives, right? If you keep doing that, then you're only going to go down one path. But in that first mile, what I did and what I tend to do is I tend to talk about those 3 factors. Or if there were other factors on that given day, those factors, and what can I learn? What is my experience from this? How can I use that to improve next time and move forward? And if you can do that, you start to change that chemical reaction within your brain. It's a lot more positive. There's a lot more things to think about, and you switch just like that. You switch, and it has a positive effect. And then next time, hopefully, you've learnt from that. You know that you're going to go for a long run, so do not have a dodgy dinner just because it's Friday or Saturday night. If you know you're going to do an allocated training session on a Sunday, don't let Saturday be a big night of eating and drinking. By all means, it's all about balance. But if you are specifically trying to train on Sunday, don't let that happen. Don't let that happen to you. Try and learn from the previous time that you struggled to get out the front door. So, just to recap it then, and to think about it all. So, can you change that mindset before you go? So you've got into that negative space. Can you start changing it while you're there? In that moment, can you change it? Can you learn from the experiences you're having? What can you do better? What can you control in this situation next time, which will be a positive on the outcome? And think about the factors which contribute to making you feel this way. Think about the things. Be aware of what it is that's making you feel this way. And I can tell you that you will feel completely different. And just by applying that, you'll see the difference and you'll feel the difference. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Like I said, please do get in contact. I'd love to share some of your stories in relation to these topics that I'm talking about. Fill me in on your running journey. I want to know what it is you're up to, what events you've got, what challenges you've got coming forward. And let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, or you've enjoyed the podcast over the first few episodes, then please do head over to my YouTube channel for running tips, on how-to tips, how to strengthen conditioning for running, how to mobilize for running. Please go over there and have a good look. And there's also some videos about my own journey as well. Please don't forget to share this with anyone you think that would benefit from it. And please don't forget to give this review, this episode a review and the podcast a review, because it would be really helpful and really appreciated if you could do that. So I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and I hope that we can meet here again next week to discuss more on the Fat Man to Ironman Coach Marshy running podcast.